ladies, it's Raquel here. Today we're going to talk all about learning the Hebrew language in our family and in our homeschool, what that looks like, why we've chosen to learn Hebrew, and then I'm going to bring you back for a ton of resources that have been beneficial to my family as we're learning Hebrew, in hopes it's going to help you in your journey of learning Hebrew as well. This may be a somewhat lengthy video, so I will put detailed timestamps in the description box so you can hop around as you like. And the description box is going to be full of links to all the resources that I'm talking about in this video. So you definitely want to check it out. It's like a treasure chest for those of you wanting to learn Hebrew. And let's get right into this topic about homeschooling Hebrew with my family. And let's begin with our philosophy on learning foreign languages in general. There's really three main facets to our methodology and what guides us as we are learning a foreign language. Because I have a background of being extremely intimidated by foreign languages. When I was in school, I took 5 years of Spanish, and the emphasis was heavy on the reading and the writing and the vocabulary, and I could read a book in Spanish and pretty much get what the book was talking about. I might miss a few words here or there, but I understood the book's gist. I knew some details from it, and I felt pretty good about myself with my Spanish understanding. And then one day I walked into one of my Spanish classes, and my teacher put on a conversation in Spanish, and we were expected to respond back to that conversation in Spanish. I could not understand a single word that was being spoken. It just all meshed in my ears. I couldn't hear where one word was ending and another word was beginning. I couldn't pick out the first word or the last word. I had absolutely no comprehension of what was being said. And here I was, a straight A student. I always got A's on my Spanish test. I could read it, I could write it. I felt so confident in it. And now everyone's looking at me and my teacher's playing this video over and over and over again, and I'm just not hearing it. And that was a very terrifying, paralyzing, I was nearly in tears experience. And that was the very last Spanish class I ever walked into. I figured some people have the ability to learn foreign languages and others don't. Being in that space where you are so completely lost, you hear sounds, but they make absolutely no sense, is a really terrifying experience. And I knew that when we do foreign language in our homeschool, something had to be different. And so as I began mulling over what foreign language learning should look like, I went back to God's design with children, babies, when they're born. How do they learn their mother tongue? When you think about a baby, they are immersed into their mother tongue for several months before they ever try to speak their first word. And when they speak their first word, it is literally just one word, right? And maybe it's mama, maybe it's dada, and it's not even pronounced correctly. It's not mama, it's not mom, it's not mommy, it's mama. But then they start to try out language, and they start to make connections. When they see their mother pick up this item, she always makes this other sound, and there's this connection that starts being made slowly, but surely, steadily, consistently over time. They start to explore that language, trying it out on their own tongue. And then eventually they not only add more words, but they add phrases, and then simple sentences, and then complex sentences. And then eventually when they're 6 or 7 years old, they're learning to read and they're learning to write. I do find that how babies learn language is really informative to how I should be learning my second language. So the three elements of our family's foreign language learning philosophy is, number one, an emphasis on listening and speaking, at least at first. And of course, we are going to integrate some reading and writing in there, but that's really just for fun at the beginning. We're really going heavy on the listening and the speaking and just getting those unfamiliar sounds and ways of making noises in your throat to become familiar to our ear, to hear the kind of the rhythm of the language. Every language kind of, and every dialect has its own kind of beat that it goes to and flow of its language. So we're just getting used to hearing that at first and trying to explore it with our own tongues a little bit at first. And then the second element is to be immersed in the language as much as possible and to incorporate into our day as much as possible. Of course, Hebrew is not, or any foreign language is not our mother tongue. And so we don't have that advantage of, everyone in our family speaking this language and everyone in our community speaking this language. But as much as possible, we can incorporate this second language into our home. So in our homeschool, I try as much as possible to bring in that immersion quality of that foreign language into our home. So whether it's music that's being sung in that language or stories being read aloud by a native speaker in that language, TV shows and movies in that language, as well as with Hebrew, we've got the advantage of the Tanakh, the scriptures being read aloud in Hebrew by native speakers too. And we sing some scriptures in Hebrew.
Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam shekol b'dvaro. Blessed are you, Yahweh our God, King of the universe, by whose word all things come into being.
Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh echad. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our God is one Yahweh, and you shall love Yahweh. So I really tried to bring in that other language into our day as much as possible. Really just trying to hear the language as much as possible throughout our day. And of course, if we have those pictures, those videos to provide context to what's being said, that's even better, in my opinion. And then the third element of our philosophy on foreign language is that I do not feel an obligation to follow a particular order with our language learning journey. It's like there's not this fear that if I don't follow a particular order, I'm going to forget to teach my children this really important vocabulary word, and now I've ruined their chances of being fluent in Hebrew forever. Babies, when they are acquiring a language in their native tongue, they kind of get all of it all at once. They hear their mama and papa talking about finances. They hear their siblings talking about toys. They hear all the words about food at dinner time, It's just kind of all there all at once. But then the ones that are more relevant to them are kind of pulled out, and then they build upon those words, And so in the same way, I don't feel like I have to follow a particular curriculum or I'm ruining my children forever on Hebrew. And that's really freeing for me, as well as there's no rush. There's no timeline. We can take our time exploring and really enjoying this language in the process of learning a language. Language learning is an acquisition over your whole lifetime. As an adult, I am still learning words in English that I have never known before. I am still refining my craft in writing of the English language. So acquisition of language is gradual over time. With babies, it takes years. They're first getting their initial words at about 6 to 9 months, but it's not until 6 or 7 years old that they're actually reading and writing that language, and somewhat poorly too, Of course, I don't think it's going to take us 6 or 7 years to get a working uses of Hebrew, because once you have the concept of language, that thing in the field over there that goes moo is a cow, it's much easier to then connect that mooing thing in the field to a para in Hebrew, because you already have that concept of language. I think you get my point, that it is a gradual thing. You acquire language over time, and you're always acquiring that language. You're always refining your skills in that language. So those three elements really guide how we learn foreign language in our home, and it's just been really freeing and helped to make the whole process less intimidating for me, given my terrifying experience in the past with foreign languages. And it's really given me this hope that, foreign language is not something that some people have the ability to learn and other people don't. It's really more about exploring a language and being consistent with the practice of it over time. And so that's given me a lot of hope with our foreign language learning in our homeschool. If you're wondering why Hebrew specifically, and that's a great question. I think there's probably lots of different reasons why any of us learn any particular language. There are really three main reasons why we are homeschooling Hebrew in our family. The number one reason is because it's the language of the scriptures that we read. The Tanakh is Hebrew, and I know I have picked up a lot of Hebrew already just because I study my Bible a lot, and I like to look at the original words and what they meant, what their synonyms and antonyms are, because that helps us to better understand the word. But at the same time, I know it's not the same as if I could read it in Hebrew myself. I was actually just telling my husband, he had been gone one afternoon, and the kids and I watched a movie from, I think it was originally from France, and it was a beautiful movie, and I was telling him the videography on foreign films is often just par none. It's absolutely spectacular. But then the storytelling is just very mechanical. And then as soon as I said that, I realized I'm sure the storytelling in the original language is just fine. But when you translate it, yes, it may be technically correct, but you're missing the essence of it. You're missing something still when you translate that language, where it sounds it sounds correct, but it sounds robotic. It sounds a little bit too mechanical. So I would just love to be able to read the scriptures in the original and be able to pick up on those connotations that maybe I don't pick up in the English, pick up on the tone of the passage that maybe I'm missing in my translation. So that's my number one reason personally. Our second reason is because we would love to visit Israel someday. This is the land of our Messiah, the land where the majority of the scriptures took place. And there's still so much more that's going to happen in the land of Israel as well. So I would just love to be able to speak Hebrew for visiting Israel. And then the third reason is really unique to me, I think, and that is because my husband wants us as a family to learn Hebrew. He has voiced this over and over again. I know it has been his desire to learn Hebrew since he was like a teenager to a young adult-ish, when he was first looking into the Jewishness of the apostles, and when he was first learning the Shema, he's wanted to learn Hebrew. And he said to me many times he wants our family to learn Hebrew, but I've always treated it as kind of like this pipe dream. When I have time, we'll prioritize Hebrew. When I have the mental space, we'll prioritize learning Hebrew. But I've come to a point where I really want to just do what I can, even if it's just a little bit, to help support and show honor and respect for my husband's dream of learning Hebrew. So now let's get into kind of those technicalities before I show you and take you along with me on a Hebrew lesson. So first of all, let me just say the immersion aspect is very much true for us. Throughout the day, we are incorporating Hebrew music, Hebrew stories being read aloud to us, Hebrew scriptures being read aloud to us. We're watching Hebrew TV shows and Hebrew movies occasionally. I'm going to share resources for that in the description box and at the end of this video. But we do have a set aside time every day, most days, for learning Hebrew. And it's really just 10 to 15 minutes of time. And it's at our dinner time, because that is a time that is very stable for our family. I know we're going to be eating dinner. I know we're going to be sitting down most of the time to have dinner together as a family. Dinner time works really great for us. And usually I will begin the lesson about halfway through our dinner time when I have finished eating, or I'm just coming to a finish with my eating, and I'll put on our lesson on the screen because, like I said, we are really emphasizing the listening portion and the speaking portion of learning Hebrew. And if we're really into it, we'll go longer than 10 to 15 minutes. But I have little children, and so 10 to 15 minutes is really kind of our sweet spot where they're engaged, they're enjoying it, and they're, learning along with us. As far as how many times we aim to have Hebrew lessons in a week, we aim for 6 lessons a week. And that is because we have dinner every night of the week, but we don't do Hebrew lessons on Shabbat. We will speak to each other in Hebrew, we will do our scriptures in Hebrew, but we will not study Hebrew on Shabbat. And that's just a choice that we've made as a family. So sometimes dinner on Friday is already sunset and Shabbat has already started, so we will skip Hebrew lesson that night. But then the following day, that dinner is usually going to be after Shabbat, and so we'll do our lesson then, and vice versa, depending on the time of year. And I say that we aim for Hebrew lessons 6 times a week, and that is true, but it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes the day has gotten away from us, we've gotten into a rush, and we need to finish dinner and get the kids into bed, and so the Hebrew lesson there may just be a read aloud. We're listening to a story. So I'd say that it's really more about 3 to 4 times a week that we're actually doing a lesson in Hebrew, and then the rest of the time is more reviews, read alouds, music, things of that nature. So then what does a lesson look like? And you're about to see us actually doing a lesson, and I hope that it's going to be encouraging to you because it is in no way Pinterest worthy. I've just finished making dinner. My hair is all like fuzzy, and I'm wearing a really loose shirt of my husband's because it was so hot in the RV after cooking. I was needing something that breathed more, and you see kids walking all around and grabbing tortillas and all this type of stuff. That is what our lessons look like. It's not Pinterest worthy, it's not glamorous, but it works. It's real life, and we enjoy it as a family. But what it looks like, just generally speaking, really depends on, again, what's going on. If we're trying to rush and get the kids into bed, it's going to look one way. If my husband's not home, it's going to look another way. If we have time to do a full lesson, it's going to look a different way. So sometimes it is just listening to that story being read aloud to us. I'm really enjoying them myself. And if you think about it, our kids, when we read them stories, we read the same stories to them over and over and over again. I'm starting to pick up on, the and or the in there. I'm starting to pick up on just different vocabulary words, mayim, for example, water, because I've heard the story read over and over and over again. And then sometimes we do what is more of like a full formal lesson where we're reviewing what we've already learned, we're practicing speaking what we already know, then we are learning something new or experiencing something new. Again, there's no particular order that we feel like we have to follow. So I jump around. I use lots of different resources. I'll be talking about that at the end of this video. And the last part is writing the Hebrew. The kids are doing an amazing job with it. It's probably one of their favorite times of the night. We get our marker boards and our markers out, and we watch someone write the letters, and we copy them, and we write the words. So that's been a lot of fun. But sometimes, we'll do the review and we'll do the new lesson, and we don't do the writing. And sometimes we do the review only, so it just changes to what works for us. It's really more about that consistency over time and just being exposed to the language over and over and over again. So this is the conclusion of this first part of our Hebrew language learning discussion. And now I'm going to actually take you along with me. It's going to be almost like a live stream, except for it's not live. I've pre-recorded it, of what a lesson looks like with us when we are just listening to a story read to us in Hebrew, and what a lesson looks like when we're doing like the full lesson, the review, learning something new, and the writing practice. Of course, I have edited this out so you're not sitting there for the whole lesson. It's only about 6 minutes long that you're going to be watching, but I hope it's going to be helpful for you, give you some insight into what this actually looks like in our house. It's not glamorous, it's not beautiful and colorful and pretty, but it's fun. We enjoy it and we're learning from it. So that's what's important. All right, enjoy this next segment, and I will see you at the end of the video with resources that we are using.
וירוק. The smartest dog we've ever seen. הכלב החכם ביותר שאי פעם ראינו. I'll teach him, אני אלמד אותו. Orange, purple, pink. כתום, סגול, ורוד.
We're going to go ahead and get our Hebrew lesson going, guys, okay? We'll review some of what we've already gone over, and then we'll go and we'll do a new lesson that I found.
Let's first see how Israeli people introduce themselves in a simple way. Shalom, ani Yana. Na'im מאוד.
All right, let's practice. Ready? Shalom, ani mama. Na'im מאוד. Your turn.
Shalom, ani Abda. Na'im מאוד.
Yeah, your turn, Malachi. Na'im מאוד.
Shalom. אני Jack.
Say, Shalom, ani Hannah.
Shalom,
If you're going to thank a woman, what do you say?
תודה רבה לך.
Toda raba lach. Okay?
תודה רבה לך.
Good job,
Now,
Malachi.
if you want to thank your men, you say תודה רבה לך.
לך.
תודה רבה לך.
Okay, if you're going to thank a guy, you say Toda raba lacha. Bevakasha.
בבקשה.
Bevakasha. 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 Very good. Sounds like the dessert baklava. Bevakasha.
מה זה?
מה זה?
זה איש.
זה איש.
איש.
Ish. Man. Ish.
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 Ish. What is ish?
מה זאת?
Mazot.
אישה.
Zot. Isha.
אישה.
Isha.
אישה.
Isha. What is Isha?
אישה.
A woman. Yes.
אישה.
Ish. Man. Isha.
אישה.
Woman.
איש.
Ish.
אישה.
Isha.
פר.
Par.
פרה.
Para.
פר.
Cow. Or the boy cow. Woohoo!
אישה.
Which one is it? Which one is it? Yeah, the woman.
פרה.
Para, which one? The girl cow.
טוב. איש.
Ish, who's Ish?
יפה.
The man, good job. All right, everyone have their board? Okay.
Get your microphone ready.
Think it looks like this. Gimel. They look quite different, don't they? But the good news is that you already can write another Hebrew word.
Is this it?
That looks pretty good to me, Abigail. That looks very good, Hannah. Good job. So, Malachi, you're going to do like this. Ready? Whoop, ready? You're just going to go like this and then like that. Good job, buddy.
In, under, on top, or beside consonants. The first one has the sound A, just
A.
like Aleph.
A.
This is kamatz, and it looks like this.
All right, good, Abigail. Let's see if you're right.
You sounds right.
Gag.
You
Got
sounds right.
Abba has kamatz under two of its letters.
Oh, we know Abba. Right, Abba.
Okay, I have to.
Now, with Abba, you don't actually have to write those nikud. Okay.
I did the dot.
Abba. Papa is our Abba, is your Abba. All right, did y'all get that handwritten version?
Yep. But I had to do it that one.
Okay, go ahead and erase it so you have more space for the next one. Don't remember how to write the in the print version? It's like this. And then, so that's Abba without the nikud.
No,
Not Abba
Not-
with it.
pay baby, no payment. Baby, mommy, no pay baby now. No pay baby.
What, baby?
Not
Do you need to go potty? Oh, don't touch it. Do you need to go
Yeah.
potty?
Yeah. No pay baby.
You don't want me to play it while you're...
No.
Okay. Alright, we're going to stop there for tonight. But you can create the Gog. I see you, Hannah.
I'm on.
Find Gog here. Not Gog, Gimel. Not Gog, Gimel. You're going to do it first now, okay? Here's Gimel. Good job, Abigail. Abba.
And I know another word.
Okay, here you go, buddy.
Whoops. I win.
You figure it out.
Good job, Malachi.
Here's one.
Hey, what letter is this?
Gimel.
Gimel. And what sound does Gimel make?
I forgot.
G.
G.
That's right. Good job. What letter is that?
Gimel.
Gimel. And what sound does Gimel make?
Ga.
G. Very good.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed seeing how we homeschool Hebrew in our family in real life, what it actually looks like. And now I'm going to talk about the different resources that we use in our homeschool to learn Hebrew as a family. And like I said, the majority of our emphasis right now is on listening and speaking the language. So a lot of these resources are online resources that I will put links to in the description box, and you can access them for free from YouTube. But I do have some books and things to show you as well. let's start with what you saw in the videos. The very first lesson you saw, we were listening to a story by the English Hebrew Read Aloud channel here on YouTube, and the playlist is Hebrew Lesson for Kids. Again, the link is in the description box. She has about 13 books that are beginner books, you know, the Bernstein Bears, Dr. Seuss type books that she reads first in English and then in Hebrew, like line by line or sentence by sentence. And those have just been really fun to listen to. And because of the nature of beginner books, how they repeat the same words over and over again, you know, in bed, out of bed, in the window, out of the window, you really pick up on the vocabulary quickly. And it's just so nice because she's also reading it in English. She's also showing you pictures, so you're really getting the whole context there as you're listening to the stories. So we love that channel. We use those stories a lot. The second resource you saw us using as we were reviewing was here on YouTube, the Learn Hebrew with Hebrew Pod 101. And they have so many different resources, writing resources, vocabulary, reading, just everything that you can imagine. We use so many of those different things, again, in no particular order necessarily. Unfortunately, not everything of theirs is free, only a limited amount are free. So I use what's free and then I find what else I need elsewhere. But they have a plethora of free resources that you need to check out. The third resource you saw us using was Olive with Beth here on YouTube, and the playlist was Biblical Hebrew Lessons in Order. That was our very first time using this resource. I just found it actually, and we enjoyed it a lot. I really liked the way they did it. She was very clear with the way she was speaking, with what things meant. Even though she was only speaking in Hebrew, you knew what she was saying. And she has other resources like stories read aloud in Hebrew. We don't care for those so much, I have found, but we did really enjoy the lessons, and we'll be continuing with them. They can be kind of long, so like the first lesson is 15 minutes long. Well, that's the maximum amount of time that we usually spend on a lesson. So I just cut it into a third. When we got to a good stopping point, we stopped, and we'll pick back up with the second third and then the third in future lessons. But we did really enjoy those. Those are something to check out. Then again, we went back to Learn Hebrew with Hebrew Pod 101 for those writing lessons. And then the final resource you saw us using was actually this wooden box where you can build the Hebrew alphabet using these wooden shapes. And I received this from the Artsa Messianic subscription box from Israel. I did an unboxing on this channel. I'll put a link to that video in the description box. I also have a discount code if you want to get that subscription box for 25% off. Use my code. But it was such a joy to unbox this and then to actually be using it in our Hebrew lessons is really neat. We all love it. We all enjoy it. My 3-year-old included. She kind of does a resemblance to the letters, but the other two get it exactly right. It's just really a nice addition to our Hebrew learning. I'm so thankful that I have it. So that covers the resources that we used in the videos you just watched, but there were a ton of other resources still to talk about because, like I said, we incorporate Hebrew just throughout our day and throughout our life. And so let's get into those. Let's start with the music because that is the #1 way that we are getting Hebrew throughout the day. It just plays in the background, it plays in the car, and we're constantly hearing Hebrew being spoken, being sung through this music, and a lot of times it is scripture songs. Now, the #1 song that we listen to the most often, because we listen to it daily, is the Aleph Bet song. I actually use it as a timer. I love the song. It's so upbeat and fun, and my kids, after hearing it every day for months on end, still dance to it, so I know it's good. And so after dinner, they need to do their hygiene and then get into bed. And I put this song on during their hygiene, and they know that they need to be done with their hygiene and in bed by the time the song ends. But it's fun because they get to learn their Aleph Bet at the same time. While they're brushing their teeth, they can see the Hebrew letters on the screen. So it's just really fun. We all love it, and it's a great way to get the Aleph Bet into their minds. And then as far as other music goes, my husband is a music connoisseur. He collects music from all over and just does a really great job of finding different music to fit different purposes, whether it's for learning Hebrew or whether it's for Yom Teruah or Yom HaKippurim or for Passover, whatever. He does a great job of collecting, compiling music. So some of the artists that we listen to are Magen, Yama Ensemble. Joshua Aaron has some music in Hebrew, and a lot of times when he has Hebrew, he also has English, so that can be kind of a nice transition. Yair Levi, Shiloh Ben Hod, Moshav, Nava Tehillah, and the Yehuda Ashkenazi Project. I will put all of those artists in the description box so you can find them on your own if you like. But it's really nice to just hear the language being spoken and being sung. And a lot of these also have English captions so you can kind of follow along as well. Now, in addition to listening to music, I also really like to listen to the scriptures being read. And I had found a resource where you could follow along. They had a little highlighter following the Hebrew as they read it. But I really was hoping to find something that also had the English there as well. And then my husband found it just a couple of days ago, and I started listening to it, and I love it because we listen to the audio Bible pretty frequently in our home. And this one is by Ted Hildebrandt's Biblical E-Learning, and the playlist that we are using is called Hebrew Bible Speaker with English Captions, and it is a really awesome resource. I think I'm going to probably be listening to this a lot more throughout the day, and already I am starting to pick up on some of these words in Hebrew. Of course, I've done a lot of Bible study looking into the original language, so I already know a lot of those biblical words in Hebrew just through study, but it's just really neat to be able to hear it being spoken and to be able to understand what they're saying, at least some of the time. And I know that that understanding is going to grow more and more the more familiar we become with Hebrew. And the last things I want to talk to you about are movies and book resources. And when I say books, I mean more like curriculum books. I haven't found any books in Hebrew for children. If you know some, let me know in the comments. But let's start with the movies. And the first movie I'll mention is a TV show actually called Shrugim, and it's for adults. We were recommended this movie as a way to kind of hear the Hebrew language being spoken and just conversational and in real life, And I would say only the first season is worth watching, because after that it just kind of gets so full of just drama, and I don't really care for that. But the first season is pretty good. It's basically the story of a group of young adults and how they're religious Israelis at that, and they're looking to make a match and get married and settle down. So it is kind of drama, but it is also pretty clean. There's kind of two scenes. One, when a girl is going to do a mikveh, you kind of see her bare shoulders, but that's all from what I recall. And then the second scene is the same girl is actually, she and her boyfriend are getting a little bit too close, but she's fully clothed and nothing happens. But it's a pretty clean movie, other than those two scenes, and it's kind of drama, but it is also a nice way to hear the Hebrew language and start to learn and pick it up. They have it in English captions as well, so that's nice. And then for kids, I actually found this channel called the Hop channel in English, and it has an actual Hebrew name, which I'll put the link to it in the description box so you can find it easily. And it's an Israeli children's show, but it has Strawberry Shortcake and Peter Rabbit and the fire truck rescue guy, I forget what his name is, all these familiar characters to kids, but it's just in Hebrew instead. So that's kind of nice for the kids. If you're wanting to maybe put something on, you need a little bit of a mama break there, some space to go to the restroom, take a shower or something, then you could put it on one of their favorite shows in Hebrew. And so it's a learning experience for them as well. And lastly, we are going to talk about books, which we are not using right now because, like I said, we're really focusing on the listening and the speaking of Hebrew. But these, I think, are still good resources that I want to talk about, and we plan on using them. So these two, actually, my husband had from when he was first looking into learning Hebrew many years ago. So we're, of course, going to use those. I think they're still good resources. But this is the book that we're actually going to use next, and I'm going to start incorporating this probably next week in our lessons. This is the New Hebrew Primer. You can always tell this is going a Hebrew language learning book is going to be worthwhile when it actually turns in the right direction. Like you can see, this one right here turns in the way that we turn our pages, and it's going to be a little bit removed from the language, I think. So these two actually turn in the way they're supposed to. But this book my husband got from a congregation near us that we went to for a little while when we first moved here. It's kind of too far away, honestly, but they do Hebrew lessons on Shabbat, and this was the book that they used. So my husband bought this book from them, and it's called the New Hebrew Primer, and it's really a good book for reading Hebrew and learning the different Hebrew Aleph Bet letters and reading them with the different vowels that there are in their vowel system. And it is going to focus more on more religious type vocabularies. You know, words like Shabbat, Passover, Shema, which is like hear and obey, Deuteronomy 6:4, blessing, you know, commandments. You're going to learn vocabulary like that. And then things that are more traditional as well, like challah, the braided bread. That's the type of vocabulary it's going to teach you. So it's not going to teach you a ton of vocabulary. It's really more reading practice. We're actually going to start incorporating this into our Hebrew lessons probably about next week or the week after, depending on how things go. But this is not like a great vocabulary book. A really good vocabulary book would be this one. And honestly, I don't even know what this says. I just know that it's a primer. The back is in English and the introduction is in English, but it just says Hebrew, a language course primer, and who it's by. So I'll try to find this. It's probably a very old book. Yeah, 1987. But this is going to go more into the vocabulary. So it talks about, I know it talks about Ima, which is mother, and it has beginning sentences that you'll start to learn to read in the Hebrew. It's much more simple, not as colorful and pretty as, for example, Hebrew in 10 minutes a day, but I think this is very thorough. As I flip through and I look at it, you're going to be actually reading sentences and using vocabulary that you can use in conversation and day-to-day life. Whereas this one is good for learning how to read, learning how to sound out the Hebrew Aleph Bet, but not so much for the vocabulary portion of it. Hebrew in 10 minutes a day is another good book that I think would be really great for vocabulary in the future. My husband, again, was using this, and it also has stickers that you can apply to different things in your home to help you say those things and see those words throughout the day. But yeah, again, it's a really good book for learning vocabulary, which we will do in time to come. But really, these books are not for now. We are going to start to learn to read it a little bit. So that is the long of it, of how we are doing Hebrew in our homeschool. All of those resources are in the description box, and we are having a great time with it. It's so funny because we finish our Hebrew lesson at dinner time, and then in the evening, I've just got Hebrew on my brain. I want to talk it. I want to watch Shurgim or something just so I can be surrounded by it more. It's a beautiful language, and I'm just so thankful that we have all of these resources available to us right now for free that we can use to learn the language. It is just a blessing, and I've been enjoying it. Like I said, we have been looking to learn the language for the past 5 years, but we've only really gotten serious about it recently, and it is going so well. It's been really fun, and I hope that this has been encouraging to you as well. If you're looking to learn Hebrew in your family, it's very doable, and you don't have to feel confined to a particular order and a particular resource and curriculum. You know, it can just be a hodgepodge of everything, and really just more about being immersed into that language and exploring it and just building on what is relevant to you. If you want to know how to say your name, learn how to say your name. If you want to learn how to describe the dinner you're having that night, learn how to describe the dinner you're having that night. You know, there's no particular order you have to follow when you're learning a language. So I hope this was helpful for you. I would love to know in the comments if you're learning Hebrew, if you want to learn Hebrew in your family, or if you're learning another foreign language in your family and what that language is. What are your best tips and tricks for learning Hebrew or any other foreign language? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here. I am blessed by each one of you. I am so grateful that we get to be in one another's lives virtually, and that we get to encourage one another to love Yahweh, to live out his words in our hearts, homes, and families. And until next time, I pray that Yahweh would bless you and keep you. I'll talk with you later. Bye-bye.